My best friend and I both transmigrated into a novel. She became the stand-in for the Crown Prince's white moonlight, while I became the bed-warming maid of the Minister of Justice. On the surface, we were the laughingstocks of everyone's idle gossip, but no one knew that we were actually enjoying tea, listening to stories, and flirting with handsome young men, living a life of unknown bliss in private. 5 years passed in such comfort. The true heroine of the story appears. After seeing the Crown Prince and the Deputy Minister of the Court of Judicial Review's infatuation with the heroine, my best friend asked me, "Shall we go? Let's go. The travel documents are all ready." Later, we both faked our deaths and escaped. 3 years later, the Crown Prince cornered my best friend in a private room of a brothel in India. I pushed the screen over in one swift motion. Run through the window. There are horses at the back door. But the next second, I was grabbed by the collar and fell into a sturdy embrace. The Deputy Minister of the Court of Judicial Review wore a cold smile at the corner of his mouth. "Run, aren't you good at running?" Recently, Yu Jiao had acquired a piece of mutton fat jade that was worth a fortune and hard to come by. When the Crown Prince entered the courtyard, the two of us were leaning against the window lattice, holding it up to the sunlight to examine it over and over. As the Crown Prince drew closer and closer to the door, Yu Jiao kicked me under the bed, urgently saying, "Be good, hide for a moment." I had just hidden myself. The prince's gilded dragon-patterned boots stepped in. Jade Beauty, who had just been the picture of worldly opulence, immediately put on a delicate and pitiful appearance. With light steps, she gracefully bowed and said in a delicate voice, "Your Highness, I thought I wouldn't see you even on New Year's Eve." The Crown Prince only glanced at Yu Jiao before walking straight to the couch and sitting down, watching his dragon-patterned boots just a foot away from me. I held my breath and shrank back further. "Yu Jiao, you don't need to attend the New Year's Eve banquet at the palace tonight." "Ah." Yu Jiao was clearly taken aback and asked in confusion, "Your servant is the Crown Princess. Shouldn't it be your servant who accompanies your Highness on such an occasion?" The Crown Prince grew somewhat impatient. "If I say you don't need to go, then you don't need to go. Juana has returned, and she said she doesn't want to see any other women by my side tonight." Yu Jiao widened her eyes in disbelief, her voice tinged with a hint of tears. "So, Your Highness means that with just a word from Song Juana, your servant must hide away as if she were something to be ashamed of." The Crown Prince stood up, his voice cold. "Don't forget how you got through this door. If it weren't for your slight resemblance to Juana, do you think I would have taken a second look at you?" The Crown Prince flicked his sleeve and walked toward the door. Yu Jiao anxiously reached out to grab his arm but missed. Behind him, she cried out heartbrokenly, "Your Highness, you cannot treat me like this. Today is my birthday." The Crown Prince's footsteps paused for a moment. He turned around and, after only a moment of hesitation, said, "You know, in my heart, you can never compare to Juana." After saying this, he hesitated no more and strode out. Yu Jiao chased to the door, crying out with a heart-wrenching voice, "Your Highness, Your Highness." Only when I was certain the Crown Prince had gone far away did I crawl out from under the bed. "Yu Jiao, phew, finally gone." I brushed the dust off my clothes and exclaimed in admiration, "What a shame you don't join a theater troupe." Yu Jiao wiped her face carelessly and plopped down on the chair. "The female lead has appeared. We need to plan this out carefully. Given the current situation, the female lead won't tolerate us. Who knows when she might try to kill us both." I also sensed the seriousness of the matter. "So what should we do now? Run?" Yu Jiao gritted her teeth. "As long as we have enough silver, we can live well anywhere. Both Jade Beauty and I have transmigrated into this book. She is a substitute for the Crown Prince's white moonlight. With a face that bears a 50% resemblance to the white moonlight, she married the Crown Prince. For 5 years of marriage, the Crown Prince has never once shown her a kind expression. I am the bed-warming maid of the assistant minister of the Dali Temple, and also the orphaned daughter of a disgraced official. Lu Yu does show me some favor, but he only treats me as a bed-warming object. Although we both appear to be living poorly on the surface, we have even become the laughingstock of the entire Xingjing city, but we secretly disguised ourselves and left the mansion to drink tea, listen to storytelling, and visit male courtesans. Life was indescribably comfortable. But now, the female lead has appeared. According to the book, for the sake of the female lead, the crown prince was willing to defy the emperor just to marry her, and in the end, he even demoted his wife to a concubine. The deputy minister of the Dali temple is even more of a romantic at heart. Despite his usual fierce and cold-blooded appearance, whenever he encounters the female lead, he transforms into a gentle lamb, with his beautiful peach blossom eyes turning into a pool of spring water. However, they both share a common trait. They are overly confident. They have always turned a blind eye to our affairs. Over the past 5 years, we have used the dog holes we each dug to engage in many joyful activities. We must leave quickly, Yu Jiao said cautiously. With just one sentence, the female lead made the crown prince abandon me at the mansion on such an important day. It will be even easier for her to sideline me next. You're not exactly in a good position either. The deputy minister of the Dali temple is even crazier. Crushing you would be as easy as squashing an ant. A sudden cold wind swept across the flat ground. I shrank my neck, not daring to think too deeply about it. Given Lu Yu's infatuation with the female lead, if she couldn't tolerate me, Lu Yu probably wouldn't hesitate to slit my throat. Go, we must leave quickly. Life is indeed precious, yet all other matters pale in comparison. Yu Jiao stared into my eyes, confirming my determination to leave, and asked me, "How much silver do you have?" I answered honestly, "How much silver could a maid like me have? Don't you have a lot?" Fortunately, she's my close friend, so it's fine if Yu Jiao takes care of me. To make up for my financial disadvantage, I quickly added, "But I managed to get 2 travel permits to Tianzhu." Yu Jiao slapped her thigh and said, "It's settled then." But after discussing it for a while, we still couldn't come up with a good way to escape. After all, one is the crown prince of a nation, equivalent to half an emperor. The other is a ruthless and cold-blooded deputy minister of the Dali temple. A master at tracking and tracing. No matter how we run, we are likely to leave traces. In the end, after much deliberation, there is only one method that is most reliable. That is playing dead to escape. Who dies first? I asked. She said, "I die first." "Why do you die first?" I frowned tightly. "I want to die first too." Who doesn't know that the one who dies later is responsible for tidying up the mess left by the one who dies first? Yu Jiao said, "Let's play pitchpot. The one with the most wins." I won, she added, best of 3. In the end, she won. I angrily kicked the pot over. "Die, die. You die first." Yu Jiao went to prepare for the death arrangements. I crawled out through the dog hole in her courtyard. I planned to go back first and dig out the jade pendant hidden under the begonia tree. That is my most valuable possession, left to me by my mother. But just as I had the jade pendant cradled in my palm, "What are you doing?" A clear and refreshing voice rang out behind me. It was Lu Yu. Why has he returned so early today? Usually, he wouldn't come back to the mansion until the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. My mind raced so fast it almost sparked. After a brief pause of 2 breaths, I calmly turned around, opened my palm toward Lu Yu, and flashed a sweet smile. "This is a treasure I've kept for a long time, originally intended to give to you on your birthday. I never expected." I glanced at him hesitantly, twisting my fingers without saying a word. Lu Yu seemed to be in a good mood. He took the jade pendant from my palm and, with his other hand, led me toward the bedroom. Entering the bedroom, he pulled out a set of clothes from somewhere and tossed them into my arms. "Put them on." I looked at the translucent, pale purple fabric in my hands, my small face scrunching up into a frown. I stammered, "See, can I not wear it? It's too thin. I'll be cold." His tone left no room for doubt. it will soon get hot. No one knew that Lu Yu had grown up in an opera troupe as a child. Back then, he not only went hungry and cold but was also beaten and scolded by the troupe leader every day. Suddenly, one day, the troupe leader offended an official's wife, and the entire opera troupe was disbanded. Everyone scattered in all directions. He accidentally knocked over a little girl wearing a light purple ruchuan. The little girl got up on her own, didn't blame him, and even gave him the brocade handkerchief from her sleeve. He said to him, "Your head is bleeding, wipe it off before you run." After he ran far away, I unfolded the brocade handkerchief to take a look. On it, a name was embroidered with fine silk thread, Song Hwana. After I became his bed-warming maid, every time he took pleasure with me, he made me wear light purple clothes, and at the peak of passion, he would call me Hwana. Every time that happened, I would dig my nails deep into my palms, telling myself, "Jiyu Ching Cheng, you can lose anything, but you must never lose your heart. Be good, put it on and let me see." He coaxingly pulled me into his arms, forcing me to meet his gaze. From his pitch-black pupils, I saw a flicker of ignited flame. Instinctively, my legs went weak, and he took the opportunity to lift me onto his lap. He began to undress me, and with each piece of clothing removed, his dark pupils grew brighter. By the time I lay on the bed in a translucent, thin garment, with nothing underneath, his bright peach blossom eyes traced over me from head to toe as if admiring a treasure. Then, heavy breaths mingled with warm, moist kisses descended upon me like a storm. Each one seemed to carry endless, lingering affection. I have to admit, Lu Yu gave me a wonderful experience. Every time, he can take me to the highest heavens, circling for a long, long time. Outside the window, the branches, battered by the night rain, creak and groan. Inside the room, my slender, pale fingers twirl a damp strand of Lu Yu's hair as I lean against his chest and ask him, "My lord, do you have me in your heart?" Lu Yu's breath caught for a moment, as if he had never expected that I would ask such a foolish question. After all, I am merely a bed-warming maid. No matter how illustrious my family background once was, it has vanished like winter's flowing water, never to return. Now, with this body of mine, I serve others with my appearance. How could I have the face to ask such an overreaching question? Lu Yu did not answer. Not answering was his answer. Yet, stubbornly, I continued to press on. "My lord, have you ever loved me?" Lu Yu's patience finally ran out. He pushed my hand away, got out of bed, and began to dress. I bit my lip and numbly started putting on my clothes as well, but tears still fell uncontrollably. As I was about to leave, I turned back with tears in my eyes, looking at him with a hopeful expression. "Sir, one day you will marry me, won't you?" Lu Yu furrowed his brow, his expression distant. Get out. In the past, whenever I showed even a hint of infatuation with Lu Yu, he would ignore me for several days. Using this trick, I often sneaked out to fool around with Yu Jiao. Never fails. This time, it just so happens to be perfect for carrying out our plan to fake our deaths. Late at night, Yu Jiao came to find me. "I'm ready. How about you?" I nodded. "I'm ready too." We went over the plan together to ensure the process was correct. Yu Jiao said, "Good, I can die in peace now." The next day was the first day of the Lunar New Year, a time when many high-ranking officials and nobles had the custom of offering incense. Early in the morning, Yu Jiao got ready and boarded the sedan chair waiting at the door. Little did she expect that inside the sedan, besides the crown prince, Song Hwana was sitting gracefully and elegantly beside him. Dressed in a dark purple satin gown embroidered with golden sparrows and feathers, anyone who didn't know better would have thought that he and she were the perfect pair. Their hands were tightly clasped together beneath the sleeves, showing no intention of letting go even upon seeing Yu Jiao. Yu Jiao awkwardly averted her gaze and silently took a seat to the side. Logically speaking, as the daughter of the Prime Minister, Song Hwana should have paid her respects to the Crown Princess. However, Relying on the crown prince's favor at the moment, she simply looked at Yu Jiao with a face full of smug satisfaction. Yu Jiao kept her eyes downcast, not wanting to engage in further conversation with the two of them. Since she was leaving anyway, there was no point in saying more. Song Hwana was dressed lightly today, and as a cool breeze swept by, she covered her lips and coughed softly twice. The crown prince immediately pulled her into his embrace with a look of concern. Asking gently, "Are you feeling cold?" Song Hwana lifted her small, delicate face and gave the crown prince a soft, charming smile. "It's nothing. I just wanted to wear the feathered satin skirt you gave me today, but I was in such a hurry this morning that I forgot to bring a cloak." Yu Jiao instinctively tightened the fox fur cloak around her. As soon as she looked up, she met the gazes of the two people across from her, fixed upon her. One of them commanded without a trace of emotion, "Yu Jiao, take off your cloak and give it to Hwana." The other raised her chin with a challenging look, watching her with a faint, mocking smile. Yu Jiao's heart had never felt so cold. The former crown prince, though aloof, had always treated her with respect under her gentle persuasion. But today, he completely disregarded Yu Jiao's feelings, openly showing favor to another woman right in front of her. Furious to the extreme, Yu Jiao dropped all pretense. She raised her head and calmly met their gazes. "If you want my cloak, you can have it, but only if you beg me for it." This was a side of Yu Jiao that the crown prince had never seen before. He widened his eyes slightly, momentarily stunned. Song Hwana, standing nearby, noticed that the crown prince was only staring at Yu Jiao without saying a word. The next moment, her eyes reddened slightly, biting her lip. She looked on the verge of tears as she said to the crown prince, "Brother crown prince, let it go. Please don't blame the crown princess for my sake. Hwana is not cold." The crown prince snapped back to reality, glaring fiercely at Yu Jiao, his tone icy cold. "Yu Jiao, if I tell you to take it off, then take it off. It's your good fortune that Hwana can wear your cloak. At most, I'll reward you with another one when we return to the palace." It's rare that he still remembers. That year, on Yu Jiao's birthday, he personally went into the forest to hunt a fox for her and made this cloak. Yet just 2 years later, Yu Jiao truly felt disgusted staying with these two. She lifted the carriage curtain and called out, "Stop the sedan." As she stood up, the crown prince tightly grabbed her wrist. With such force, it seemed as if he wanted to crush her wrist. "If you want to leave, you can, but leave the cloak behind." Yu Jiao gasped in pain, stubbornly blinking her tears back into her eyes. She took off the cloak and walked into the cold wind, feeling thin and exposed. At night, Yu Jiao developed a high fever. She kept murmuring the crown prince's name in her delirium. The maid went to call for the crown prince, but he only coldly said, "It's her own willfulness. She deserves to suffer for it." Yu Jiao had a high fever for a full day and 2 nights. On the 3rd day, when the maid pushed open the door and entered the room, she found that Yu Jiao had already stopped breathing. Upon hearing the news, the crown prince rushed to Yu Jiao's room without even putting on his outer robe, running barefoot. He trembled as he grasped Yu Jiao's hand. It was already ice-cold to the bone. His expression instantly froze on his face, as if a tear had been ripped in his heart. A cold wind howled through. Yu Jiao was dead, just days after she had gone with him to pray for blessings. And today, she was gone. The crown prince, unable to believe it, gently touched Yu Jiao's face, calling her name over and over. "Yu Jiao, wake up. How could you leave just like this, when I disguised myself as a maid and entered the mansion?" The crown prince was leaning over Yu Jiao, weeping uncontrollably. I knelt behind him, sobbing so hard I could barely catch my breath, and said in broken words, "Madam, why didn't you listen to the master's advice? The master said that recently, the Reborn brings misfortune to the mansion, and warned you not to go out on the 1st and 15th days of the month, otherwise, sob." The crown prince suddenly turned his head so quickly that I feared he might strain his neck. He anxiously and nervously grabbed my sleeve. What did you say? What Reborn's misfortune? What does otherwise refer to? His eyes were so red they seemed almost to drip blood. Explain it clearly to me. I was trembling uncontrollably from his grip, my tears falling even more heavily. With tear-filled eyes, I replied, yes, it was the night before last. A wandering monk came to the gate and pointed at the sky above the mansion, saying that our household is facing a Reborn calamity, a disaster that could harm the life of the master of the house. The mistress, fearing it might affect your highness, said she would go to Hongfa temple the next day to offer incense and pray for you. But the master also said that this calamity would affect the mistress even more, advising her not to leave the house on the 1st and 15th days of the lunar month, or else her life would be in danger. But the mistress wouldn't listen and insisted on going. Ah, madam, you left so tragically. I lay prostrate on the ground, weeping in utter despair. The crown prince slumped to the floor, muttering to himself, it's me, it's all my fault, I'm the one who harmed her. I gently tugged at the corner of my mouth, silently cursing under my breath. What were you doing earlier? Yu Jiao took a fake death pill. As long as it doesn't exceed 7 days, give her the antidote, and she'll be fine. Counting the time, she will have just been buried by the 7th day. As long as I dig her out in time, it'll be fine. Next, it's my turn. When I return to the mansion, Xiaotsue, who serves in the front courtyard, told me that Song Huana, the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's residence, had come. She went straight into Lu Yu's study as soon as she arrived and didn't come out all afternoon. I took the lily and fritillary soup she was about to bring into the study and slipped a few pieces of broken silver into her hand. When I pushed the door open, Song Huana was leaning against the desk, her eyes filled with affection as she watched Lu Yu write. Lu Yu was focused on his brush and ink, not even lifting his head, gently placing the hot soup on the desk. I softly reminded him, "Sir, please have the hot soup before you continue writing." Hearing my voice, Lu Yu finally looked up, his brows furrowed for a moment, his tone somewhat displeased. "What are you doing here?" As if I had done something wrong, I lowered my head, pursed my lips, and replied softly, "I heard from the front courtyard that you have a slight cold. So I wanted to bring the lily and fritillary bulb soup in person, and also to see you." The last sentence I spoke as softly as a mosquito's hum, but I was certain that both people in the room heard it clearly. Song Huana sneered and said to Lu Yu in a coquettish tone, "Is this your bed-warming maid? She doesn't look all that stunningly beautiful, and she's dressed so shabbily." Lu Yu wasn't as fawning as described in the book. Frowning slightly, he said to me coldly, "You go back first. I'll come find you in a couple of days." Reluctantly taking one last look at him, I left the room dejectedly. After leaving the room, I quickened my pace and returned to my own courtyard. I spread out the paper and wrote a letter to Lu Yu, telling him about my 5 years of infatuation with him. And at the end, I told him that I had no hope left in life and was going to find my deceased parents. After finishing all this, I picked up my bundle and crawled out of the dog hole into the biting wind. Not daring to delay on the road, I hurried up the mountain overnight. At the edge of the cliff, I placed a rock on top of one of my embroidered shoes. Then I changed my shoes and hurried down the cliff. Lu Yu, the deputy minister of the Dali temple, was not in his position for nothing. He was meticulous and observant, having handled countless major and important cases. I must take care of the details before I can feel at ease and go off to enjoy a carefree and happy time with Yu Jiao. By the time I reached the bottom of the cliff, the sky was already beginning to lighten. I tore the blood-stained Ruchuan into strips and scattered them in the wind. This valley, also known as the Wild Wolf Valley, is often frequented by wolves, as local farmers passing by have frequently observed. In this way, even if Lu Yu fails to find my body, he will imagine the scene of me being devoured by wild wolves. After waiting for several days, Yu Jiao was finally laid to rest. Late at night, I went to great lengths to dig her out. After giving her the antidote, she woke up in less than half an hour. As soon as she regained consciousness, she clung tightly to my neck, exclaiming, "Oh my goodness, I was so scared." It was only much later that we learned that after our deaths, the Crown Prince and Lu Yu had nearly gone mad. The Crown Prince is fine, at least he believes that Yu Jiao has been laid to rest, so even in his longing, he has a place to mourn. It's just that he didn't realize until he lost her that he had already lost his heart to Yu Jiao long ago. Before Song Hwana returned, he had already planned to live a good life with Yu Jiao and was preparing to stop her contraceptive medicine to have a child with her. As for Lu Yu, he found the letter I left for him 7 days later. During those days, the Crown Prince was heartbroken as he arranged the funeral for Yu Jiao. Song Hwana turned her gaze toward him. Perhaps in her heart, she believes she is a favored daughter of heaven and deserves to be cherished in the palm of an outstanding man's hand. The youthful infatuation Lu Yu once harbored for her gradually faded away during her 7 consecutive days of relentless pursuit. The reason he didn't come to see me during those 7 days was also because he feared Song Hwana's jealousy, and worried that she would cause trouble for me while he was away from Shengjing. It's just, everything is too late. When Lu Yu finally reached the edge of the cliff, he found only one of my shoes in the hollow of a nearby tree. He frantically took people to search beneath the cliff. Finally, in a patch of withered grass, they found a blood-stained piece of my sleeve. He clenched the hem of the sleeve tightly in both hands, kneeling on the ground, wailing in grief, like a wolf king who has lost his beloved. What happened to the Crown Prince and Lu Yu later had nothing to do with me or Yu Jiao. The prosperous land of India has gained 2 more beautiful wealthy women. We both invested in a small male brothel. For 3 years, I have lived a carefree and leisurely life, waking each morning to the scent of flowers and returning each evening to admire the moonlight. During the day, I watch as the establishment fills with guests, and at night, I drink and make merry with the young male entertainers. Now, looking at the 12 new young male entertainers, each with their own unique charm, our eyes are gleaming, and the smiles on our lips simply cannot be contained. With a wave of her delicate hand, Yu Jiao said, "Everyone, show off your talents. Those who perform well will be rewarded." The first one, dressed in a blue robe and holding a jade flute, played a melody so melodious and graceful that it seemed capable of captivating one's very soul. The second one, clad in a red robe, danced gracefully, her figure as light as a swallow, with her sleeves fluttering as she twirled, enchanting all who watched. The third one, with clear and delicate features, held a peeper in her arms, her slender fingers plucking the strings, producing sounds like large and small pearls falling onto a jade plate. Fourth, the young man in black, spreading paper and wielding his brush, in a moment presented an exquisite calligraphy work before our eyes. Each person possesses their own unique characteristics, making one applaud in admiration. Yu Jiao chose the man in red robes, just as I was hesitating whether to select the young man in black. The last young man stepped forward onto the stage. With a casual wave of his hand, the young man shed his outer robe, revealing the firm, well-defined chest muscles and the distinct, chiseled abs beneath. Beside him, Yu Jiao, who had been lying in a near-death state, suddenly sat up in shock, nearly knocking over the wine table in front of her in her excitement. I pressed her arm down and beckoned to the young man with a crook of my finger. The other young men turned away in annoyance. Yu Jiao also went to drink with the man in the red robe, looking equally frustrated. The young man obediently sat down close to me. I lifted his chin and admired him up close once more. Indeed, he is a stunningly handsome young man, with eyebrows like distant mountains tinged with ink, eyes like autumn waters rippling with waves, broad shoulders and a narrow waist, a perky bottom and long legs. As if an immortal who has stepped out of a painting, I try my best to control my drool, but my hand uncontrollably caresses his firm, bouncy chest muscles and then slides down to his chiseled abs. He shyly grabs my mischievous little hand. With his other hand, he pours me a cup of wine. His voice brimming with tender affection as he says, "My dear, don't be in such a hurry. First, have a drink of this autumn dew wine, freshly delivered from Shengjing City this morning. The autumn dew is thick." What a familiar name. On the first night I served as Lu Yu's bed-warming maid, I trembled with nervousness. Lu Yu also held my small hand like this and led me to the desk. He poured me a cup of thick autumn dew and filled his own cup as well. He said with a smile at the corner of his mouth, "After drinking this cup of autumn dew, this place will be your home from now on." Home, what an enticing word. I have thought countless times that the reason I still can't forget him even now is because he once gave me the illusion of home. A cup of autumn dew brought to my lips pulled my thoughts back. I lifted my head and drank it all from the young man's hand. A drop of wine accidentally slipped down, and the young man was about to lick it with his tongue. The door was suddenly pushed open. The Crown Prince and Lu Yu stared at the two of us with dark, menacing expressions. His gaze was as cold as the water of a 1,000-year-old icy pool, sending chills down one's spine and making the hair stand on end. The young man remained in the same posture as before, and I nervously pushed him away. I swallowed nervously, exchanging a glance with Yu Jiao, both of us seeing the words doomed in each other's eyes. I closed my eyes and forcefully overturned the screen beside me, shouting at Yu Jiao, "Run through the window, there's a horse at the back door." But the next second, I was grabbed by the collar and fell into a sturdy embrace. A cold smile played at the corner of Lu Yu's lips. "Run, aren't you good at running?" to prevent us from colluding. The Crown Prince and Lu Yu took us back to Shengjing separately. On the way back to the capital, I had a long, drawn-out dream. Back then, I had just transmigrated into this world. My father, a third-rank official serving as the Secretariat Director, had just been convicted and dismissed from his post. With all our family property confiscated, my mother, who was already in poor health, passed away not long after. My father, his heart extinguished like a lamp, followed her with a white silk rope. Overnight, I became a despised orphan girl. Once, a brothel servant grabbed me by the collar, trying to drag me into the brothel. I struggled desperately and bit his hand. He slapped me in pain, and having not eaten for days, I was knocked to the ground by his blow, my vision darkening in waves. Just then, a pair of clean deerskin boots appeared before my eyes. I struggled to look up and saw a man standing before me, dressed in crimson official robes. He wore a black gauze cap, with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, his expression cold yet carrying an air of authority. Later, he took me back to his residence. He asked if I would be willing to be his bed-warming maid. At that time, I could barely afford to eat, and not being sold into a brothel was already a stroke of luck. Looking at his handsome, refined face, I nodded with tears in my eyes. For the next 5 years, no other women appeared by his side, although I was only his bed-warming maid. He was usually busy with work and could not return to the mansion until the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Over time, he developed a stomach ailment, so every evening I would prepare a bowl of nourishing bashen porridge for him. Gradually, he began to show more care for me. Occasionally, when he returned to the estate early, he would bring me some delicate little trinkets. On my birthday, he would also carefully select gifts for me. In the estate, aside from him, I held the highest status, and I lived alone in a quiet courtyard. All the servants were whispering among themselves, speculating that one day I might become their true mistress. The carriage reached a mountain road, and I woke up from the jolting. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw Lu Yu leaning against the carriage wall, feigning sleep. From the occasional slight tremble of his eyelids, I knew he wasn't actually asleep. Looking down, I saw the jade pendant hanging at his waist. It was the one I gave him. He had strung it with a red cord and hung it in the most prominent spot on his waist. Perhaps my gaze was too intense, and he could no longer keep up the pretense. He opened those beautiful peach blossom eyes. Our eyes met, and for a moment, both he and I were speechless. In the end, it was I who calmly asked the question, "Where is Yu Jiao?" Lu Yu glanced at me warily and said in a sinister tone, "Don't even think about running away again. Neither you nor she will have another chance like this." I stared straight at him. "I want to see Yu Jiao, Ching Cheng." He took a deep breath and warned me with forced patience, "Don't make me tie you up." I struggled to get off the carriage, but he grabbed my shoulder and pinned me down beneath him. After 3 years apart, my heart couldn't help but race wildly. Turning my head away in embarrassment, I angrily scolded, "Get out." He looked at my flushed face, a wicked smile curling at the corner of his mouth. His slender fingers set me ablaze with reckless abandon, pushing me to my limit stroke by stroke. I was flushed with embarrassment by his teasing. "Let go of me," I cried out in a mix of shame and anger, my hands pushing against him incessantly. He forcefully sealed my lips, stirring wildly within. I don't know how long it had been when he finally let go of me, panting heavily. His eyes still held a lingering desire. "Why are you treating me like this?" I looked at him, both angry and aggrieved. A flicker of complex emotion passed through his gaze, his voice hoarse and low. "It's been 3 years. Do you know how much I've missed you?" I pushed him away. "If you miss me, then take me to see Yu Jiao." Lu Yu locked me up. He didn't even let me return to the courtyard with the dog hole. Every day, he keeps me in his study and even had a comfortable small couch placed there. Usually, he handles official business at his desk while I read leisurely books on the small couch. During this time, I have attempted to escape countless times, but Lu Yu seems to have awakened a detective instinct in me, catching me quickly every time I try to flee. Bored, I closed the book, walked up to him, snatched the pen from his hand, and threw it on the ground. This is already the 20th pen I've broken, yet he doesn't even lift an eyelid. He simply takes another from the sandalwood box beside him, dips it in ink, and writes, all in one smooth motion, as if the pen in his hand has always been the same one from before. I'm so furious with him that I pull out my final trump card. This time, he finally looks up, calmly watching the dagger I've placed against my own neck, tone helpless. "Do you really have to go see her?" I nodded heavily, but overlooked the dagger still pressed against my neck. The delicate skin was instantly cut open, and blood flowed down the snow-white neck. A flicker of heartache quickly passed through Lu Yu's eyes as he rushed forward, trying to snatch the dagger from me. I endured the pain, took a step back, and asked him with teary eyes, "Are you going to take me to see them or not?" "Yes." He stood there nervously, his brows furrowed tightly. "Put down the dagger first, and I'll take you there first thing tomorrow morning." "Why not today? What time is it now? Do you really want to go see how they sleep?" I sniffled and threw the dagger on the ground. "Hiss, that really hurts." While he was applying the medicine, I warned him again, "Just to be safe, I have plenty more daggers, so don't you dare trick me." He gently blew a breath on my neck, looking up with adoration in his eyes. "Great." On the carriage ride to the Crown Prince's residence, Lu Yu told me a piece of news. Song Huana is dead. After Yu Jiao left, the Crown Prince became very quiet. At first, he thought he was the one who had caused Yu Jiao's death. If he had come to see Yu Jiao that night and called for the imperial physician, perhaps she wouldn't have died. Later, the more he thought about it, the more something felt off. Yu Jiao's constitution had never been that fragile. How could a high fever have taken her life? "Master, the Reborn's misfortune approaches. Do not go out on the 1st and 15th days of the month." After calming down, he remembered what the maid had said on the day Yu Jiao passed away. However, when he went to look for the maid again, she had left a suicide note and followed Yu Jiao in death, with 2 lives lost in an instant. The Crown Prince became even more convinced that it was this Reborn's misfortune that had taken Yu Jiao's life. As for who Reborn referred to, it went without saying, the Crown Prince, as if gone mad. tied Song Hwana up and forced her to kneel before Yu Jiao's memorial tablet, making her kowtow to Yu Jiao. Song Hwana struggled desperately, cursing the crown prince as stupid as a pig. Enraged, the crown prince pressed her head down, forcing it to hit the ground again and again with heavy thuds. By the time Lu Yu arrived, the crown prince was still pressing Song Hwana's motionless head down, continuing to make her kowtow as if he had lost his mind. A large pool of bright red blood had spilled onto the ground. It soaked the crown prince's pale blue robe. It was only when Lu Yu presented evidence of the prime minister's collusion with the enemy and treason that the crown prince finally calmed down a little. It turned out that the official's wife whom the opera troupe had offended back then was none other than Song Hwana's mother. Although the troupe had a manager who abused Lu Yu, it also included Lu Yu's own twin brother. That day, my brother desperately pushed Lu Yu outside, but he himself was caught by the official's wife's servants and beaten to death. Young Lu Yu made a vow then, if he ever gained power, he would avenge his brother and clear his parents' names. Over the years, he had been closely observing the Prime Minister's residence, until 3 years ago, when he discovered that the Prime Minister was in close contact with the royal family of another country. After that, he worked tirelessly day and night to gather evidence of the crime, and finally, 2 days ago, he obtained evidence that could lead to the execution of the Prime Minister's entire family, down to the 9th degree of kinship. Lu Yu took away Song Hwana, who was barely clinging to life. He imprisoned her and her parents together in the cold, damp dungeon. As he turned to leave, Song Hwana crawled over and grabbed the hem of Lu Yu's crimson official robe. Lu Lang, was there ever a moment of sincerity in your heart for me? Lu Yu pulled out his own hem, returning to his usual ruthless and cold-blooded demeanor. He said indifferently, Song Hwana, I originally intended to let you go, but you've provoked someone you shouldn't have. Lu Yu left, not even giving Song Hwana a glance before he went. Song Hwana lay prostrate on the ground, laughing with a heart-wrenching bitterness. After a while, her sharp roar echoed through the prison. Qin Zhong, Lu Yu, I will never let you off, even as a ghost. When I arrived at the Crown Prince's residence, I had imagined many scenarios. Yu Jiao was tied up in a secret chamber by the Crown Prince, forced to eat spoiled food and cold meals. Yu Jiao was tormented by the Crown Prince's cold violence. Yu Jiao spent her days in sorrow and despair, waiting for me to come to her rescue. But what on earth is happening here? The Crown Prince, soaked to the skin, is standing in the pond. Bending over to pick up golden beans, Yu Jiao, wrapped in a brand new fox fur coat, stood by the pond, directing with a charming smile, over there, and there, hurry and pick it up. Hey, that one was snatched away by the koi. How can you be so clumsy? My eyes were twitching uncontrollably, so I rubbed them and stretched my eyelids with my fingers. I made sure I wasn't seeing things. Lu Yu leaned close to my ear and whispered, I forgot to tell you, she can't remember the past. Ah, I exclaimed, widening my eyes in amazement, silently offering my admiration in my heart. Yu Jiao, as expected of you, pretending to have amnesia. Awesome. It was the dead of winter, and the pond water was bone-chillingly cold. If he were to soak in it for 2 hours, his legs would likely be ruined. The Crown Prince stood in the water, his face already turning blue and purple from the cold, moving as stiffly as a long-neglected puppet. But Yu Jiao was still giggling, urging him on, hurry up. Why are you as slow as a snail? In the end, I couldn't stand it any longer, afraid that she might actually end up killing the Crown Prince, and I would have to pay with my life as well. After much coaxing and persuasion, I finally managed to get her to let the Crown Prince come up. Lu Yu accompanied the Crown Prince to change his clothes. I then followed her back into the room. Once inside, after dismissing the servants, I asked, what were you thinking? If you play him to death, how will you ever escape? I held her small, frost-reddened hands. Frustrated by her recklessness, she glanced indifferently out the window. You don't understand. Every time I return to this room, I remember New Year's Day when he left me alone, thinly dressed, on the street. I walked for a full hour before I finally made it back to the Crown Prince's residence, stiff and frozen. When I returned, my body was completely chilled through. My feet and calves immediately developed frostbite, itchy, painful, and utterly unbearable. At night, I developed a high fever and sent the maid to find him, but he told her it was my own fault. It was clearly him who forced me to give my cloak to Songhwana, so how could it be my fault? He doesn't have to love me, but why does he treat me so poorly? Yu Jiao, sobbing uncontrollably, nestled in my arms, her trembling shoulders making my heart ache as I held her even tighter. I am not unaware that Yu Jiao deeply loves the Crown Prince in her heart, but she never speaks of her grievances, leading me to mistakenly believe she is more carefree than I am. Little did I know that the person who appeared indifferent on the surface had wounds in her heart so deep they reached the bone. The Crown Prince and Lu Yu had already entered the room at some point. The hem of the Crown Prince's robe was still dripping with water. Looking at his bloodshot eyes, I knew. He had heard everything. He wasn't unaware that Yu Jiao was pretending not to remember the past. He was simply atoning in his own way. During these days, in the daytime, Yu Jiao would have him climb trees to collect snow, saying she wanted to bathe in heated snow water. At night, she would make him play the qin in a pavilion open to the wind on all sides, claiming she couldn't sleep without his music. In just one short month, the once radiant and distinguished Crown Prince had become utterly haggard. Yu Jiao lifted her head from my embrace and slowly sat up straight. She glanced at the two people at the door, her voice calm. Qin Zhong, since you've already heard everything, let's get straight to the point. Let me leave, and from now on, we owe each other nothing. No. Qin Zhong rushed to Yu Jiao's side in anguish, tightly grasping her hand. Jiao, I was wrong. Please forgive me. Just this once. Okay. Yu Jiao closed her eyes and turned her head away, her lips trembling silently. Just as the Crown Prince thought Yu Jiao would soften. Qin Zhong, a broken mirror can never be mended. Let go. No. The Crown Prince frantically pressed Yu Jiao's hand against his own face. Jiao, Songhwana is dead. No one will stand between us anymore. Stay, won't you? Yu Jiao smiled. Two clear tears slid from the corners of her eyes. With almost no hesitation, she said, No, we can't go back anymore. The Crown Prince's eyes instantly dimmed, and he slumped to the ground in despair. He cried with both sorrow and regret. After a while, he forced himself to stand up, unwilling to give up, and pressed on. Jiao, you used to love me the most. How could you change so suddenly? Have you ever truly cared for me? Yu Jiao looked at him with eyes full of sorrow, tears once again sliding down from the corners of her eyes. For 5 years, I held you in the palm of my hand every day, carefully protecting you, giving you everything I could. Tell me, have I ever been sincere? The Crown Prince's body, propped against the edge of the bed, swayed unsteadily, his face pale and almost translucent. Yu Jiao raised her head, wiping away all the tears from the corners of her eyes. When she lowered her head again, her voice was filled with hazy memories. In the year I first married you, I understood nothing. The ladies in the palace disliked me, and the servants in the mansion did not respect me. Once, the 6th princess came to the mansion and made me climb high to pick cherries for her. I was terrified, afraid I might fall from the tall tree. Just then, you returned. You scolded the 6th princess and effortlessly leaped up to catch me, snuggled in your arms, holding your neck tightly. I silently vowed to myself that no matter whether this man would love me in the future, I would love him well and stay with him forever. Silent tears spilled from the Crown Prince's fingers, accompanied by broken, hoarse sobs. Yu Jiao quietly rose from beside the Crown Prince, looking down at him from above. Her eyes held a final trace of tenderness. I'm not afraid to tell you, Jiyu Qingcheng is my best friend. In this lifetime, aside from you, she is the only one I wish to be with forever. We had agreed to leave together, but on the last night of my high fever, I couldn't help but think, if only you had pushed open the door to see me, if only you had spoken a gentle word to me, I wouldn't have left, I would have given all my silver to her, and I would have stayed, to be with you forever. The prince's body finally gave out, and he collapsed to the ground. His hollow eyes were like a stagnant, lifeless deep pool. Lu Yu went out and instructed the steward to summon the imperial physician. I gently took hold of Yu Jiao's cold hand. As she stepped out, Yu Jiao did not look back, only leaving a faint remark, "Qin Zhong, our fate in this life is over. If there is truly any affection left for me in your heart, please do not come looking for me again." Outside the door, Lu Yu was standing there. After glancing at Yu Jiao, he came over and took my hand. I tried to shake him off but couldn't. My other hand still tightly holding Yu Jiao, helpless, he took both of us back to his residence. After settling Yu Jiao in the courtyard where I used to live, I followed Lu Yu into the study. As soon as the door closed, Lu Yu pressed me tightly against it. He pinched my chin and kissed me fiercely. I was startled by this sudden kiss, but he probed deeper, until my tongue went numb and I could no longer stand. Only then did he lift me and place me on the desk. Then came more aggressive and possessive kisses, falling like rain. My back ached from the hard surface, and tears welled up in the corners of my eyes, just as he tore my dress and his hands gripped my waist. Snap! I used all my strength to slap him. Lu Yu's fair cheek instantly showed a bright red handprint. I took the opportunity to sit up and escape to the floor. I glared at him with a vigilant expression. Lu Yu licked his swollen lips, smiling with a wicked charm. "I used to think you were just a gentle rabbit, but I never expected you to be a little wildcat that bares its teeth." "Heh," I laughed self-deprecatingly. "Whether it's a rabbit or a cat, in the end, aren't they both just things you use to warm your bed?" He froze for a moment, then raised his eyes to study me intently, as if to confirm, "In your heart, is this how you see me, how you see yourself?" "Otherwise," I answered as if it were the most natural thing. "Ha ha." Lu Yu suddenly laughed in anger. He grabbed my hand and pressed it against his own chest. "Jiu Qing Cheng, listen to me clearly. I have never treated you as a mere object for warming my bed. In my heart, you have long been my woman, Lu Yu. Is that so?" I shook off his hand and took another step back. "Then what about the light purple clothes? What about you holding me and calling out Song Wanna's name? Was it all because you love me?" He was frozen in place by my questioning, and it took him a long moment to find his voice again. "That's not how it is. Listen to me. I only at the very beginning." "Don't say any more," I interrupted him. "I don't want to hear a single word." "1 year, Ching Cheng. Give me 1 year." I looked at his outstretched finger in confusion. "If you still want to leave by then, I won't stop you." Having known Lu Yu for so long, this is the first time he has ever compromised with me, although a year is not a short time. I know this is the biggest concession he could make. In the past, he never guarded against me, which is why I had the chance to escape right under his nose. Now, if he refuses, even if I flee to the ends of the earth, he can still catch me and bring me back. So, I only thought for a moment before agreeing. Returning to the small courtyard where Yu Jiao lives, Yu Jiao was anxiously sitting by the window, waiting for me. Seeing me enter, she abruptly stood up and hurried toward me. "You're finally back. So, did Lu Yu let you go?" When I told her about my agreement with Lu Yu and asked her to leave first, her immediate reaction was, "How can that be? Lu Yu is the deputy minister of the Dali Temple. If he goes back on his word, what can a young woman like you do about it?" I calmed her down and had her sit, poured her a glass of water, and then spoke gently. "Lu Yu is not a man who goes back on his word, even if he doesn't let me leave after a year. I have my own ways to get away, trust me." She sprang to her feet again. "What good is trusting you? By then, I'll be far from home, and you won't be able to help me even if you want to. No, if you can't leave, then I won't either. I'll stay right here and wait for you." Yu Jiao's identity is that of the former crown princess and a deceased one at that. If she stays in Shengjing, not to mention the difficulties and dangers, the crown prince could easily have her captured again at any moment. The freedom she had worked so hard to obtain could not be destroyed like this. After a long, heartfelt conversation with her by candlelight throughout the night, I finally sent her off onto the carriage, though she was reluctant to leave. After the carriage had traveled some distance, she leaned out of the window, still uneasy, and repeatedly confirmed with me, "You promised, at most a year, if you don't come. I'll risk everything, even if it means losing my head, to come back and find you. The wind is too strong. My tears are scattered in the breeze." I ran 2 steps toward her, cupped my hands around my mouth, and shouted loudly, "Go in peace, I will definitely come find you." Since the day the crown prince stood too long in the pond, he fell ill and never recovered. The imperial physicians in the palace shuttled in and out of the crown prince's residence every day, and each time they emerged, they sighed heavily with worried expressions, muttering to myself, "A troubled heart is hard to heal." When Lu Yu told me these things, my heart remained completely unmoved. I knew that Lu Yu wanted me to mention this in the letter I was sending to Yu Jiao. If she returned, perhaps I wouldn't leave. Over these 11 months, he has treated me with the utmost affection. Every day after court, he would return to the residence early, have dinner with me, take walks with me under the moonlight, and even share the same bed with me at night. You should know that in the past, no matter how late it was, he would always have me return to my own courtyard, never allowing me to spend the night on his bed. Amidst his day-to-day tenderness and affection, I sometimes couldn't help but think that if Yu Jiao were to find a good home in the future, perhaps I could indeed spend the rest of my life with Lu Yu in such an ordinary way. There are still 19 days left until the 1-year agreement. Last night, Lu Yu was like a madman, holding me tightly and constantly demanding more, as if he wanted to embed me into his very soul, entwined with me for all eternity, even unto death. He left me covered in bruises, every bone aching as if crushed by a heavy weight. Xiaotsue, hearing the commotion outside, came in to help me wash up. The usually lively and energetic little maid was surprisingly quiet today. I asked with concern a couple of times, but she just pursed her lips and remained silent. It seems her unusual behavior is related to me. After washing up, I pushed the door open and walked out, only to be startled by the sight of the entire mansion decorated with lanterns, colorful banners, and red silk hanging high. Even the imposing vermilion-lacquered main gate was already adorned with gilded double happiness characters. Looking at this scene before me, my heart sank heavily, and a sense of foreboding surged within me. Late at night, Lu Yu returned very late. When he embraced me from behind, a faint, unfamiliar scent of osmanthus drifted past the tip of my nose. The fragrance of osmanthus was a royal incense reserved exclusively for the imperial family, not even available to the wives of first-rank officials. I nestled quietly in his arms, my tone calm. "Lu Yu, the 1-year agreement has come to an end. It's time for me to leave." He suddenly tightened his arms, his body trembling almost imperceptibly. "Ching Cheng, don't go, stay for what?" I forced down the bitterness at the corner of my lips and turned to look back at him. "To watch you marry another woman, enter the bridal chamber, and live in perfect harmony." He dared not meet my eyes, turning his head to the side, his voice seeming to drift back from afar. "There will be no perfect harmony. My heart can no longer hold anyone else." Hihi. I couldn't help but laugh out loud, tears streaming from my eyes. "Are you trying to say that I'm the only one in your heart? And you're only marrying another woman because you have no other choice?" His Adam's apple bobbed, and he turned his gaze back to me with a pained expression. "Ching Cheng, I'm marrying the princess for a different purpose. Just give me some time." "Time, Lu Yu, how many more 6 years do you think I have left to give you? Who do you think you are, the king of heaven? You want everything and refuse to let go of anything. What gives you the right?" a man of utmost hypocrisy. I didn't want to stay a moment longer, so I picked up the bundle I had already packed and headed toward the door. Suddenly, my wrist was seized, and
You still refuses to let you go, and I can't get the antidote to you. You're as good as dead. You. What on earth were you thinking? If you die, what am I supposed to do? She's right. This move of mine is truly a narrow escape. This was a remedy told to my mother by a traveling doctor when I was a child, which I overheard but had never put into practice. If there had been the slightest mistake, I might never have seen Yu Jiao again. At that moment, upon suddenly hearing that Lu Yu was going to marry, I didn't have time to think it through. My mind was completely filled with the thought, I have to escape. Now that I've calmed down and thought about it, I'm still filled with lingering fear. It really wasn't worth risking my life for a man like that. I gave Yu Jiao a weak smile, then my lips trembled, and 2 clear streams of tears fell. Yu Jiao frantically wiped away my tears, cursing as she did. Damn it. Are you just taking advantage of my soft heart? Yu Jiao and I made it back to Tianzhu smoothly. Once again, I've started living the carefree and joyful life of a wealthy woman. 2 years have passed in the blink of an eye, and we've both consciously avoided any news about Xinjing. Sometimes during our conversations, I ask her, when you last returned to Xinjing, why didn't you agree to see the Crown Prince one last time? She blinked slyly, propped her chin on her hand, and asked me in return, what about you? You knew full well that Lu Yu loved you, and that marrying the princess was only to clear his family's name. Why are you still so determined to leave? I slapped away the hand she was using to prop up her chin, wrapped my arms around her, and, imitating a man, took a deep breath at the nape of her neck. With a look of intoxication, I said, of course, men aren't as fragrant as best friends. She pushed my face away without mercy, pretending to gag in disgust. The man in red robes and the gentleman with the chiseled abs had somehow appeared before me. The man in red robes looked at me with a resentful expression. Lady Gu. When have I ever been that creepy? I was just about to advise him not to jump to conclusions. The gentleman with the chiseled abs wrapped an arm around my waist, leaned close to my neck, and took a deep breath, intoxicated by the scent. So fragrant. Ah, ha 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 ha. Yu Jiao and I laughed so hard we nearly fell over. Indeed, leaving Xinjing City, every day is a good day. Lu Yu side story 1. On the night Qing Cheng left, she also casually took away the jade pendant she had given me, which was hanging at my waist. She is truly ruthless. You didn't leave me even a single thought to hold on to. Actually, I fell in love with her a long time ago. I can't remember exactly when it was. Perhaps it was that day we first met, when she looked up at me with her slender neck in a disheveled state. Perhaps it was when I brought her back to the mansion, and she sat restlessly, like a lost little rabbit. Or perhaps it was when she curled up in my arms, whimpering and begging me to protect her. In any case, every single frame of her is etched in my memory until death. I thought we would continue living this ordinary life. Once I had cleared my parents' and family's names, I would marry her, become an ordinary couple, and have 2 lovely children. But just as I pushed open her door again, only a letter from her remained on the table, while she herself was nowhere to be found. After reading the letter, I felt completely unsettled. It was the first time I experienced the feeling of a heart that simply couldn't be kept in its place. I searched frantically for 3 days and 3 nights with others. Finally getting a clue, I rushed to the edge of the cliff, only to find one of her embroidered shoes. I couldn't believe the answer that kept welling up in my heart. Unwilling to give up, I ran to the bottom of the cliff. A blood-stained sleeve completely shattered the last bit of hope in my heart. I am like a lone wolf that has lost its beloved mate, crouching on the ground, letting out mournful whimpers from my throat. Later, the Crown Prince came to me in a state of despondency, asking me to help find a maid who had served his deceased wife. I had no intention of getting involved, but his detailed description of the maid's words and demeanor felt strangely familiar. And I realized this matter was not as simple as it seemed, suppressing the doubts and speculations in my heart. I calmly agreed to his request. As the investigation deepened, I was astonished to discover Qing Cheng and the deceased crown princess were actually a pair of masters in disguise and disguise, Many tea houses and brothels in Shengjing City had left traces of their presence. When I saw the same dog hole of identical shape and size again, what else was there for me not to understand? When I went to tell the Crown Prince, he still wore a look of disbelief. But I watched helplessly as his eyes gradually lit up with a glow. In the end, we dug open the Crown Princess's grave. As expected, it was completely empty. Lu extra 2, when I kicked open the door of the Indian brothel, I wasn't without the thought of what unbearable scene might await me, but a stunningly beautiful young man, bare-chested, was extending his pink tongue to lick the wine that had trickled from the corner of her lips down to her slender, pale neck. My mind exploded with a boom. All the blood in my body rushed to my eyes in an instant. I wish I could gouge out my own eyes. She looked at me fearfully, closing her eyes for a moment. I thought she had realized her mistake, but the next second, she pushed over the screen beside her and shouted at the Crown Princess, "Escape through the window. There are horses at the back door. Jiu Ching Cheng, oh Jiu Ching Cheng, I must have been blind. You're no lost, obedient little rabbit. You're a damn little wildcat dancing all over my minefield." On the carriage back to Shengjing, God knows how much I wanted to take her right there in the carriage, but I didn't dare. Afraid I might scare her away, I tried my best to indulge her in every way, except for letting her see the Crown Princess. Yet when she clumsily held a dagger to her own neck, my heart softened. I thought, just go along with her. After all, I'll keep a close eye on her, and she won't be able to escape my grasp. The Crown Prince usually gives off an aloof and superior impression. Unexpectedly, when we arrived at the residence, he was humbling himself by standing in the icy pond water, picking up golden beans for the Crown Princess. Later, I overheard his conversation with the Crown Princess inside the room. A strange fear inexplicably rose in my heart. I had a very bad premonition. One day, Ching Cheng would also leave me. Just as the Crown Princess left the Crown Prince, resolutely, she would leave me. Fortunately, Ching Cheng agreed to the one-year promise with me, and personally sent off the Crown Princess. I thought that as long as I made the most of this year, I could keep Ching Cheng by my side forever. After all, I have always known, the princess also loves me. There are still 20 days left until the one-year agreement. On the way out of the palace, the princess called out to me. She is pregnant with General Ling's child, but General Ling is solely focused on earning military achievements and does not want to marry her. The princess, with no other choice, proposed to cooperate with me. She told me that the key evidence of my parents' wrongful accusation was in the hands of the Empress Dowager. If I was willing to marry her and be her fake husband for 3 years, she would persuade the Empress Dowager to produce the evidence and clear my family's name. Clearing my parents' and family's name has always been my obsession. And besides, it was only a fake marriage. I can still love Ching Cheng with all my heart, so I agreed without hesitation. When I returned to the mansion in the evening and saw the tender, affectionate look in Ching Cheng's eyes, I couldn't bring myself to tell her. I could only hold her in my arms again and again, kissing her eyes and brows. But when I returned the next evening, she already knew everything. There was no other way. I had to lock her up temporarily. On the night of the grand wedding, as I held her in my arms, she kept vomiting blood and was on the verge of death. I knew then that she was going to leave, whether alive or dead. She no longer wished to belong to me. I chose to let her live. In that final glance at her from the carriage, I heard the sound of my own heart shattering. Ching Cheng, in the end, I failed to live up to our meeting. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.